What happens when a business owner, someone who has everything and knows everything, steps into the shoes of an everyday worker? What happens when they put on a fake identity and work anonymously in their own kitchen, not as the boss, but as a cook? Let's dive into the story of Roger Morrow, a man who thought he knew his business better than anyone, but learned that there are always things hidden just beneath the surface. Roger Morrow had always been the type of person who loved control. He owned a small but growing restaurant called Morrow's Grill, a place known for its simple yet delicious meals. He had worked his way up from nothing, starting out as a dishwasher at a local diner, then eventually becoming the owner of his own restaurant. Roger was proud of his journey, his business, and his success. He had a clean-cut image, always dressed in crisp shirts, walked with confidence, and spoke with authority. To the outside world, he seemed perfect, a man who had it all figured out. But like so many people, Roger was about to learn that things weren't always as perfect as they seemed. One evening, after a busy day running his restaurant, Roger was sitting at his desk in the back office of Morrow's Grill, going over the day's numbers. He noticed a disturbing trend. The kitchen staff seemed to be slipping. The food quality, the pace, the coordination, they weren't as sharp as they used to be. It was subtle, but it was enough to worry Roger. For a long time, he had relied on his head chef, Dominic, to keep the kitchen running smoothly. But Dominic's recent performances had left him questioning if his trusted employee was truly as reliable as he once thought. Maybe they just need a little extra push, Roger thought to himself. Maybe I need to get my hands dirty and remind everyone who's in charge. But what if he didn't show up as Roger Morrow, the businessman? What if he went in undercover, a regular cook in the kitchen, and experienced it all from their perspective? Maybe he would see things he had never noticed before, things that could make him a better leader. The next morning, Roger made a bold decision. He called Dominic and told him that he was taking the day off, giving him a chance to run the kitchen on his own. But in reality, Roger had a plan. He called up a company that specialized in creating fake identities for people who wanted to go undercover. The next day, he would walk into his restaurant as a completely different person. No one would know it was him. The plan was set. Roger Morrow would become Rick Green, a new cook with just a bit of experience but an eager attitude. When Roger entered the restaurant the next morning, wearing a simple cook's uniform with his new identity, he was immediately struck by how different everything felt. He wasn't the boss today. He was just another face in the crowd. He wasn't giving orders or looking over the shoulder of his employees. He was one of them. His first task was to get into the rhythm of the kitchen. It wasn't as easy as he thought. The heat from the stove, the sharp smells of garlic and onions, the constant noise. Roger quickly realized how much went into running the kitchen. He wasn't used to being on the receiving end of the hard work, but it wasn't the physical challenges that began to weigh on him. It was the emotional ones. He had always considered himself a compassionate boss, someone who cared about his employees. But standing there in the kitchen, working alongside his staff, he felt a sense of loneliness that he hadn't anticipated. One of the line cooks, Marcus, was struggling to keep up. Roger, in his role as Rick, wasn't sure how to help. He had always been the one telling people what to do, but now, as a regular cook, he felt powerless. He wanted to step in, to offer advice, but he was just one of many. Marcus shot him a quick glance, clearly frustrated by the pressure, but said nothing. Roger couldn't help but feel the tension. He had always thought his employees were just lazy or inefficient when things went wrong, but now he understood that it was more complicated. The pressure, the long hours, the constant stress, they were all real, and now he was experiencing it firsthand. As the day went on, Roger became more and more aware of the cracks in his operation. He watched as Dominic, his trusted head chef, barked orders at the staff without taking a moment to understand their struggles. Dominic didn't seem to notice the exhaustion in his crew's eyes or the way they hurried to meet unrealistic expectations. It was painful to watch. Roger had always admired Dominic's leadership, but now he saw it from a different angle. Dominic wasn't a hero in the kitchen, he was a tyrant. The workers were afraid of him, not motivated by him. The love for the job was slowly disappearing, replaced by fear. That evening, as the dinner rush finally came to a close, Roger had a moment to himself. He stood in the kitchen, staring at the tired faces of the staff. They were just as exhausted as he was, if not more. He felt guilty. He had always thought of himself as a good leader, someone who cared for his team. But what had he really done? He had sat in his office, safe from the chaos, assuming everything was fine. It was then that Roger realized something he had been blind to for so long. His staff wasn't just a means to an end. They were people, with their own challenges, hopes, and dreams. They weren't just there to serve his vision, they were building it with him. And he had been failing them. The next day, after his day in the kitchen, Roger made a decision. He couldn't keep running the restaurant the way he had before. He needed to change. But change would only come if he was willing to listen and learn. Roger revealed his true identity to the team later that afternoon. He gathered them all in the break room, and with sincerity in his voice, he apologized. "I know I haven't been the leader you deserve," Roger said, his voice soft but firm. "I've been distant, caught up in numbers and schedules. But what I've learned is that running a kitchen, running a restaurant, it's not just about the food or the profit. It's about the people behind it. You all work harder than I could ever imagine, and I'm sorry for not seeing that sooner." The room was silent at first. Then Dominic, who had always been so tough on the staff, looked at Roger with a hint of understanding. Slowly, a few of the other cooks nodded. From that day forward, things began to change at Morrow's Grill. Roger didn't stop being the owner, but he became a different kind of leader, one who listened, who cared, and who made decisions with his team, not just for them. The kitchen staff started to feel heard. The hours didn't seem as long, the pressure didn't feel as heavy. They had someone who understood, someone who had walked in their shoes. Roger had put on a fake identity to learn the truth, and what he found was both humbling and eye-opening. He realized that no matter how successful you become, there's always something new to learn. And sometimes the best leaders are the ones who are willing to put themselves in the shoes of their team. Roger Morrow's restaurant continued to grow, but it was no longer just about the food. It was about the people. And that made all the difference. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.